Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
The TSA's new Touchless Identity Solution is changing how travelers move through airport security. Using facial recognition and mobile boarding passes, the system verifies identity in seconds. No ID required, no contact needed. It's already live at 15 major airports. Here to explain how it works, what it means for privacy, and why it's a model for future federal innovation is ASRC Federal's Mike Horton. Mike, thank you for joining me.
Hi, and good morning, and thanks for having me.
Let's talk about the Touchless Identity System. ASRC was honored by ACT IAC as an innovation champion for this solution. Tell us what it is and how it works.
Well, thanks. The Touchless Identity Solution specifically for TSA, it augments the TSA PreCheck model, where we have streamlined the security process for passengers through working with TSA. This particular advancement goes beyond that and allows customers through certain airlines to speed up that process by not even having to present their ID. It's simply a photograph that is matched on the back end and an immediate approval or denial.
So this is advertised as a bit of AI, but tell us what's happening on the back end of this system.
I would probably classify it closer to intelligent data filtering. We're asking the right questions of this large bunch of data in a succession that makes it faster and easier and more specific to that particular traveler. So let's classify it as 3 lanes. Your average normal lane without pre-check. There's pre-check where you present a real ID, and there's a face matching from that and a photograph that's taken at the kiosk. And then this solution is even faster, up to 66% faster, where without a real ID to match from, we're matching from credentials that a user has offered to opt in with the airline.
And so do people need to be worried about privacy and storage of that photo in a way that maybe violates some of their privacy concerns?
I would always recommend people be focused on their own privacy and the privacy of the data they submit. However, these airlines, Alaska and United and Delta, just to name a few, they're protecting that data the same way the government is and within the government specifications. So I'm pretty confident that the data that you submit as a user, specifically your passport information, is just as secure as it would be with the State Department or with TSA.
Well, you mentioned that processing time is up to 66% faster. This has just been rolled out at a few airports now. So what are you hearing in terms of customer service and customer satisfaction?
Well, I think the airlines want more of this. I think the airports want more of this. I'm certain that the customers want more of this. It allows TSA and their TSOs to focus on people problems instead of system problems. We've kept the security perimeter safe, and we've been able to reapply those resources, those human resources at those kiosks, at those gates, back to the customer to allow flow with processes and programs that don't necessarily depend so much on data. Think baggage, for instance.
You mentioned keeping the security perimeter safe. Tell me a little bit more about what that means.
Well, we've increased that speed of transaction, but we haven't lowered any security standards. We've actually increased them, and with that data matching and facial matching, allowed a higher degree of security than perhaps a human would.
This kind of technology really is like the front edge of advancement. How did TSA prepare to deploy it? What were there workforce issues, training issues, SOPs that they had to think through?
I think this is a natural evolution of TSA PreCheck, where we had gotten used to processing people through with the benefit of systems behind them instead of perhaps, if we can go back a moment to the sort of the first and old way, here's your ticket, here's your boarding pass, perhaps here's your real ID, and then a TSO, a person, looking at you, looking at your documents, checking them on a computer screen. That process is relatively straightforward, but it's slow. And our interaction with TSA at PreCheck showed how much faster PreCheck was than that process. I think this was just a natural evolution if we could get the most system processing and the least amount of human processing.
Did it take a lot to bring the TSA agents up to speed on how to use this?
No, I think it went exactly the other way. I think they were delighted that they didn't have to do that particular piece of the work, and they were reliant upon the process, and it allowed them to pay more attention to the security posture of the line and the processing in the bags.
And so what's the feedback been from the TSA agents themselves?
They want more. Once again, this speeds up the people and process through airports. If you talk to anyone at TSA, their focus is safety and security and speed of U.S. public transportation. So when we have an ability to process more people through faster and just as secure, they're all for it.
I'm speaking with Mike Horton. He's Vice President of National Security at ASRC Federal. So, Mike, what comes next after touchless ID? Are there other automation strategies or AI-based tools that are going to help TSA continue to streamline these kinds of operations?
We think so, but I think the first step you'll see next is the broadening of this particular program. We have some very specific and voluminous travel dates coming up for us, not just this year, but also with the Olympics and the World Cup and others that are happening here in the States. The need to expand this program to increase that speed, not just at these 5 or 6 or 10 airports, but also to more airlines.
And so when we think about these kinds of deployments, we talked a little bit about customer service. What are some of the bigger opportunities you see? You mentioned those big events, but for other agencies where they could implement this kind of customer-facing solution?
Well, we would expect anywhere you process people. So think of the southern border, think of the northern border, think of overseas at embassies, anywhere where we can maintain that perimeter of security while increasing the process speed through access and identity.
And so does the passport photo become the definitive identification marker?
It is now. I wouldn't guess that it stays that way forever. But for right now, it is the de facto definitive identity photo for use within the touchless identity system.
And so do you see this expanding to other agencies?
We certainly hope so. We think there's applicability with CBP, of course, and perhaps even some cargo applications. But I would fall back to that intelligent data filtering, that layer of not quite AI in a way that it has its own sort of free thought in making decisions, but more along that it's streamlining search processing and access processing that has applications throughout multiple federal agencies.
So as you started to develop and deploy this system, what were the key customer-facing attributes that you wanted to make sure you delivered? And how should other agencies, maybe beyond identity, but similar sorts of customer-facing solutions, be thinking about?
Well, I think for us, the win-win was that the agency was able to achieve their goals by moving more people faster. And I think it just so happens to line up with what every customer at every airport wants every single day, which is to move seamlessly through that very important process, but do so in such a way that they're confident in the outcomes and they can be where they want to be faster. So it was a win-win.
And how do you think this is influencing citizen trust, customer trust? Do people feel more secure in this process?
That I couldn't say, but I will comment that it's been my experience that when customers are considered in processes that increase and improve and perhaps even maintain security, it's a win. They're so used to, I think, being negatively affected by security measures. In this particular case, it feels as though, and once again, it's a feeling, that customers are delighted to be involved in a system that increases and their security benefits from it in a way that also helps them.
I've been speaking with Mike Horton. He's the Vice President of National Security at ASRC Federal. Mike, thanks for sharing this new development with us.
You're welcome, Terry. It's my pleasure.
We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Listen to the Federal Drive on your schedule. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.